Chapter 11, Part 1 of Bel Ami, or The History of a Scoundrel. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Martin Geeson. Bel Ami, or The History of a Scoundrel, by Guy de Maupassant. Translator unknown. Chapter 11. Mme Walter Takes a Hand. Part 1. On entering the office the following day, Duroy sought Boisrenard and told him to warn his associates not to continue the farce of calling him Forestier, or there would be war. When Duroy returned an hour later, no one called him by that name. From the office he proceeded to his home, and hearing the sound of ladies' voices in the drawing room, he asked the servant, "Who is here?" "Mme. Walter and Mme. de Marelle," was the reply. His heart pulsated violently as he opened the door. Clotilde was seated by the fireplace. It seemed to Georges that she turned pale on perceiving him. Having greeted Mme. Walter and her two daughters, seated like sentinels beside her, he turned to his former mistress. She extended her hand. He took and pressed it as if to say, "I love you still." She returned the pressure. He said, "Have you been well since we last met?" "Yes, have you, Bel Ami?" And turning to Madeleine, she added, "Will you permit me to call him Bel Ami?" "Certainly, my dear, I will permit you anything you wish." A shade of irony lurked beneath those words, uttered so pleasantly. Mme. Walter mentioned a fencing match to be given at Jacques Rival's apartments, the proceeds to be devoted to charities, and in which many society ladies were going to assist. She said, "It will be very entertaining, but I am in despair, for we have no one to escort us, my husband having an engagement." Duroy offered his services at once. She accepted, saying, "My daughters and I shall be very grateful." He glanced at the younger of the two girls and thought, "Little Suzanne is not at all bad, not at all." She resembled a doll, being very small and dainty, with a well-proportioned form, a pretty, delicate face, blue-gray eyes, a fair skin, and curly flaxen hair. Her elder sister, Rose, was plain, one of those girls to whom no attention is ever paid. Her mother rose and, turning to Georges, said, "I shall count on you next Thursday at 2:00. He replied, "Count upon me, madame." When the door closed upon Mme. Walter, Mme. de Marelle in her turn rose. "Au revoir, Bel Ami." This time she pressed his hand, and he was moved by that silent avowal. "I will go to see her tomorrow," thought he. Left alone with his wife, she laughed, and looking into his eyes, said, "Mme. Walter has taken a fancy to you." He replied incredulously, "Nonsense." "But I know it. She spoke of you to me with great enthusiasm. She said she would like to find two husbands like you for her daughters. Fortunately, she is not susceptible herself." He did not understand her and repeated, "Susceptible herself?" She replied in a tone of conviction: "Oh, Mme. Walter is irreproachable. Her husband you know as well as I, but she is different. Still, she has suffered a great deal in having married a Jew, though she has been true to him. She is a virtuous woman." Duroy was surprised. "I thought her a Jewess." "She a Jewess? No, indeed. She is the prime mover in all the charitable movements at the Madeleine. She was even married by a priest. I am not sure but that Monsieur Walter went through the form of baptism." Georges murmured, "And she likes me?" "Yes. If you were not married, I should advise you to ask for the hand of Suzanne. Would you not prefer her to Rose?" He replied as he twisted his moustache: "Oh, the mother is not so bad." Madeleine replied: "I am not afraid of her. At her age one does not begin to make conquests. One should commence sooner." Georges thought: "If I might have had Suzanne! Ah!" Then he shrugged his shoulders. "Pah, it is absurd. Her father would not have consented." He determined to treat Mme. Walter very considerately in order to retain her regard. All that evening he was haunted by